my why, essentially, is I seek to understand and I try to help others understand as well so that we together can create a strong sense of community. If you can only support creators who provide value and make you think, please consider contributing to my Patreon page the next time you watch one of my videos. Hello everybody and welcome. Today I want to talk about the concept of why. Now, in my perspective, the question why is probably one of the most important questions we can possibly ask. And the reason for this is understanding is really important when it comes to moving forward in any particular sense. Knowing why it is you do what you do is kind of the bedrock of personal development, and it's better to behave from a place of understanding exactly what's going on rather than just trusting that everything's going to be okay, because we have been led astray before. I know a couple people who are kind of yes men, where they're asked to do something and then they do it. And I always go, well, why? Why are you doing that? And then they go, I don't know, because somebody told me to. And I'm like, that sounds potentially dangerous to me. If you're doing it just because somebody told you to do it and you didn't even think to ask why they wanted you to do this, couldn't that potentially be bad? I mean, what if somebody comes up and says, hey, take this, and gives you a bag of drugs or whatever and tells you to cross the border? I mean, you could get arrested. Let alone if somebody comes up to you and says, hey, I want you to kill this person, and you just go, okay, whatever. Why wouldn't you ask why? Why would you agree to that? Why would you just say yes? Even if it's somebody you trust, I still would not agree to do that. And who knows if these individuals would actually end up asking why if they were put into that kind of situation. But you can see how this could be potentially bad. I do know that in some circumstances it's probably not a good idea to necessarily ask why, and this is because the situation is potentially dangerous, and in order to keep everybody safe you need kind of immediate obedience. So this would include emergency responders and like military and things like that. But what they teach seems to be obedience always. And I see this as a really bad thing, because what happens when your commander decides he's going to play for the other team and takes his whole squad with him? They don't think to question why. They were taught not to question. So they just follow along, and you end up with this massive killing spree of friendly fire, and once you catch all the people who were involved in this kind of turn event, they all say, well, the commander told me to. And you go, well, didn't you think to question why? And it's like, well, you can't ask them that question. You've been telling them this whole time not to do that. And I'm not really sure why this is not something that's recognized more often, but it is potentially bad. I mean, look at Hitler and the Nazis. My guess is a lot of that carnage happened because the people involved in it, the people doing the killing, didn't really think to question what their superiors said. And they knew that if they did question it, they faced potential repercussions that could be something as bad as dying themselves. So this question of why is extremely important. But it's even important in more mundane aspects of our life. So I've given you a little bit of how this can go wrong and why it's important in these extreme events. But it's also really important on an individual level, such as in the work environment and in your life. So when somebody asks you why it is you go to work, most people are going to respond, because I earn money there. And while that may be true, it's kind of a shallow response. It's similar to business, how a lot of people ask, well, why did you decide to go into business? And a lot of people answer, well, I wanted to be my own boss. That might very well be true, but it's only the surface. It's only the shallow response that you're giving there. You're not actually digging very deep. When it comes to work environments, you're usually going to get one of two flavors of response, essentially. You get the positive flavor and you get the negative flavor. I'd say that the majority of people probably fall into the negative flavor at this point. I may be wrong, I don't know. I haven't done any statistics or anything. I haven't put out a survey. But my guess is a lot of people go into work largely to earn money. And the reason that they earn money is because they don't want to deal with the negative emotions that come from the uncertainty that would essentially be created if they lost their job. So they go to work to avoid fear and anxiety. That's not to say that they don't feel those in their work, but it's a lesser degree because, they at least have enough money to take care of themselves and their families, potentially. And through work, they find a sense of security, comfort. They might even earn enough money to do some of the things they actually enjoy. So, maybe they earn money so that they can do the things that they enjoy, which bring them happiness, things like that. So, that's kind of the first segment of why people might do the work that they do. More than likely, on the other end of the spectrum, you've actually had some people that looked a little bit more into why it is that they do what they do. These are the people that actually enjoy their jobs. And more than likely, they do their work because it brings them a sense of fulfillment, because they feel like they're helping the world, and that feels good, so they're looking for work that means something to them, that makes them feel like they're contributing, that gives them a sense of fulfillment or a sense of joy or accomplishment, things like that. So all of these things fall into the why it is that you do the work specifically that you do. When it comes to business, it gets a little bit harder because you kind of need a combination of both. You're going to have somebody who is simultaneously looking to earn money and somebody who wants to help the world or, create some kind of change, usually. These are really important factors when it comes to starting a business. And I think a lot of the reason why many businesses fail is because they don't actually take the time to consider why it is they're going into the specific industry that they're going into. I think this actually probably played a very big role in the failure of my own parents' business. I don't think that my dad ever really took the time to figure out why he chose the business that he went into. Maybe he did, but if he did, my guess is he was looking for something that would bring him profit and something that he could potentially enjoy. So he liked working on his own cars, so going into automotive repair made a certain amount of sense. But I think his primary reason for going into business was definitely something like, I want to be my own boss and I want to earn a lot of money. And this is potentially destructive in business. But you can tell the businesses that have a strong why, and you can kind of compare them to their counterparts. So if you look at Apple, they kind of have a strong why. I believe theirs is something like constant innovation or something like they really want to create the new and the better and all these other things. So they advertise to people who want to do the same or really like to have the new or the better or, to be constantly growing and innovating. I would be somebody who falls into that category, except physical products don't really matter that much to me. So if I were all that into new tech, I'd probably be on the side of Apple. But for me, computers are largely only useful for their function. So, going with one that just does the job I need it to, I tend to stick with Windows. And Windows is kind of the everyman particular kind of computer, but it doesn't have the same kind of loyal following. People aren't going to pay $1,000 for a Windows computer the same way that they would a Mac. I mean, if you got a gaming computer that was specifically designed, maybe, but, that's still a very small segment of the population that would do that. So you can see the difference here. You've got Apple with a very strong why and a very loyal customer base, and then you have Windows, who's kind of like the everyday man computer. Anybody can use it, anybody can benefit from it, but nobody's like in love with their Windows computer. It's largely just there because it works. Same with actually two different coffee brands. If you look at Dutch Bros, they tend to have a very loyal following. Now, if somebody did a blind test on who had better coffee between Dutch Bros and Starbucks, I doubt you would really notice much difference. But Dutch Bros tends to have like a personal growth sort of why going on, like constantly evolving as people kind of thing. I'm not entirely sure of their why, but that's the feeling I get when I look at like the messages on their windows and stuff, and the kind of environment that they've created and the kind of mood that they want their employees to have and things like that. So Dutch Bros seems to have a very strong why. I don't know specifically what their why is, but if I were a coffee drinker, I'd probably be very loyal to Dutch Bros as well. And I know that my whole family really likes Dutch Bros. The family I live with currently, anyway. You know, my mom and so on. But it's really humorous to me to think about that. I mean, who would have thought that coffee could have a strong why, and yet clearly they do. And the loyal following the Dutch Bros has is quite intense, versus Starbucks seems to be the everyman coffee. And it's quite humorous. You know, Starbucks gets a lot of business, but if people find a better coffee place, they'll go there instead. The reason that Starbucks is effective is because they're all over the place. So they can catch all of the people that don't know the good spots to go, or whatever the case may be. Possibly even just the convenience of it. Dutch Bros, though, people will go out of their way to find it. You know, travel miles in a direction that is nowhere near where they need to be to get Dutch Bros coffee. It's quite fun and interesting to think about. And I think part of the reason why this why is so important is because of the marketing. Like, if you have a strong why, you know exactly who you're trying to appeal to. Such as Apple, you know, they're trying to appeal to the people who like the new and the better, and, you know, constant growth and movement forward and things like that. Whereas Windows is just pretty much trying to get everybody who needs a computer. There's not really a specific focus. They're not targeting a specific audience other than, you know, they're targeting people who want and need computers. Same with Dutch Bros. Dutch Bros is trying to advertise to the people that are specifically like them, whereas Starbucks is trying to advertise to everybody who wants coffee. Very different marketing strategy. Now, you can probably learn more about this kind of concept if you watch some of Simon Sinek videos. I know that I really enjoy him as a teacher, and he is a strong advocate for the concept of figuring out why it is you do the things that you do. But I thought for now I would just share my particular why, and this is something that I've been working on for a while, and I think I finally found the answer. So for me, the reason why I do most of the things that I do, including YouTube, is because I want to understand the world, myself, and other people better. And part of what is necessary when it comes to understanding is having other people to work with, you know, other perspectives to look at, and people who are willing to open up to you and share, you know, like the inner turmoil and struggle that they're going through. You can't really understand until you start seeing that aspect of somebody. So my why essentially is I seek to understand, and I try to help others understand as well, so that we together can create a strong sense of community. That's essentially my why. You know, the desire for understanding is so strong in me, and I want to appeal to all the people who want to understand why as well, who want to understand the world, themselves, and other people better. And I hope that together we can create a family of sorts, you know, that we can have a strong community and strong connections and bond and be able to communicate in that honest, raw kind of way that is so necessary for true understanding to come out. I think that's a very good explanation as to why it is I do what I do. But one of the humorous things about these whys is if you look at the base level, like once you get down to the root of the issue, you really do start to notice that what everybody is seeking, the why of pretty much every action, is actually an emotion. So in that work environment situation, what they're looking for is security, they're looking for peace, they're looking for comfort. In the happy work environment, they're looking for fulfillment, they're looking for joy, happiness, fun, things like that. In business, you're looking for innovation, you're looking for creation, and whatever the case may be. It's always about getting whatever emotion it is you're wanting to get. I know that Abraham Hicks says on many occasions that you do what you do because you believe it will bring you happiness, whatever it is you're doing. And I think there's a lot of truth in this. Happiness is probably the driving force behind the majority of our actions, either that or fear. And fear is kind of like the I don't want this, whereas happiness is I do want this. So it's a direction of desire that really makes the difference there. If you looked at the positive aspect, the alternate to that fear response, you're still looking for a happy response there as well. Which is something that Abraham Hicks talks about as well, is where you need to focus on moving toward something rather than away from something else. Act out of the desire for happiness rather than the desire to avoid fear and hurt. So I think that's probably good for today. If you are somebody looking for your why, I definitely encourage you to start looking for the emotions. Like, what exactly are you hoping to get emotionally from whatever it is that you're doing? And that will kind of help guide you toward your why. I think it took me a really long time to discover my particular why, because I kept trying to figure out what this altruistic feeling is. And I know that for Tony Robbins, he says that contributing outside of the self is one of the needs of the personality, I think is what he said, one of the needs of the personality, which is probably true. But I tend to believe that even if you want an altruistic thing, like, helping other people understand, that's the altruistic side of what I want. The reason you want it is because of what it would bring you. So for me, the sense of community, friendships, things like that. Which is not to say that it's not altruistic, or that it's not helpful to other people, or that you're the only one that benefits from it. But realistically, everything you do because of its benefit to you. So if you can't figure out its benefit for you, then you don't really understand it yet. So just that little tidbit for you. I am going to end this video though, because I'm already really long in the video. So thanks for watching. I hope you learned something. I hope this helps you figure out something about yourself and your life and why it is that you do what you do. Maybe even helps you come to understand the whys of your own behavior. And yeah, so I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, click the like button, make sure to subscribe, click the notification bell, and if you have any questions or video ideas or, comments about this particular video, leave them in the comment section, and I will do my best to respond. And yeah, thanks for watching. I will talk to you again soon. Bye.